Everybody ready? Okay, I'd like to open the Leavenworth Board of Zoning Appeals, Monday, June 27. There is a quorum, only one absent commissioner. Second item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the 18 October meeting. I was not present, so I will defer anything, but any additions, corrections, or a motion to accept?
I make a motion to accept.
I second it.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And abstain. Okay. No old business, new business. 2022-10, 700 Eisenhower Road. Hold a public hearing wherein the applicant is requesting a variance from section 815A of the adopted development regulations to allow the use of two existing non-conforming signs after a change in business names and ownerships. Staff report, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you said, this is a request for a variance from section 8.15A of the development regulations to allow the use of two existing non-conforming signs after a change in name and business ownership. That section of the regulations does require, or states that a non-conforming sign existing lawfully at the time of the passage of this sign code may be continued under the terms as hereinafter provided, that such non-conforming signs shall be modified to conform, replaced with a conforming sign, or removed according to the following. 1, if there is a change in business ownership, tenant, name, or type of business. And 2, that any maintenance, repair, or alteration of a non-conforming sign shall not cost more than 25% of the current value of the signs as of the date of alteration or repair. So the gas station located here at 700 Eisenhower was formerly the Woody's Gas Express. That's changed ownership and business name recently. It's now a Sunoco gas station, so that does trigger that requirement that any existing signs come into conformance or be removed. So the two signs that are in question, there are two freestanding signs, one at the northeast corner, you can kind of see the shadow, and one at the southeast corner, right at the corner of Shrine Park and DeSoto. So the property is zoned general business district, and again is occupied by a gas station, which is an allowed use in that zoning district. And again, there are the two existing freestanding signs that we're discussing here. The sign at the southeast corner is 20 feet in height with a total sign face of 110.25 square feet. And the sign at the northeast corner is 20 feet in height with a total sign face of 82.82 square feet. Sign regulations for the general business district allow freestanding signs to be a maximum of 15 feet in height with a minimum setback of 5 feet from the property line. And it does provide that where a sign is located across the street from a property zoned for commercial or industrial uses, that the height of the sign may be increased to a height of 25 feet, provided that the nearest edge of the sign is set back from the property line an additional 2 feet for each additional 1 foot in height. So the property across the street to the south is in the city of Lansing. That's occupied by a cemetery, and that is zoned for agricultural purposes. Property to the east is the credit union and is zoned office business district. So the provision for the additional height does not apply to the sign on the south corner, since the property across the street is zoned for agricultural uses and not commercial or industrial uses. It would apply to the sign on the northeast corner. We do consider office zoning to be a commercial zoning district, so that could take advantage of that provisional increase in height. With this, the sign on the northeast corner is set back approximately 10 feet from the nearest property line, so that would give it an allowable maximum height of 17.5 feet. Regulations for signs in the GBD district allow for a maximum sign face area of 100 square feet. The sign on the northeast corner does meet that requirement, so they're in conformance with that. The sign on the southeast corner does not. It is a little bit over that, since that one is 110.25 square feet. So just to summarize, the existing sign on the northeast corner meets the requirements for sign face area and exceeds the maximum allowable height by 2.5 feet, once it has that provision for the additional allowable height based on their setback. And then the sign on the southeast corner exceeds the maximum allowable height by 5 feet and exceeds the maximum allowable sign face area by 10.25 square feet. After we sent the required notice, we received no comments from any affected property owners that were in the notification area. So, the criteria for the board to consider are listed, and I know that we do have the owner, in attendance if you have any questions for him.
Okay.
And I do have, let's see. So this is one of the signs. You can see, I believe this is the one at the corner of Shrine Park and Eisenhower, changing from the Woody's Gas Express to the Sunoco, just reusing that existing sign, changing out the faces. And then the other one, yep, and then this is the one on the northeast corner. Again, the existing Woody's, and then changing to what they have shown there.
Any questions of the staff?
How long has Dillon's been in business there? 30 years?
I'm honestly not sure
No, not that long.
Not that long?
what the answer on that
I
is.
figured 1990 something.
I would say at least 20 years.
Okay, at least 20.
Yeah.
Is there an overall increase in the sign square footage between the new and the old?
Nope, they're not increasing they're not
Staying the
increasing
same.
height or sign area. Just the existing, they're wanting to reface those. And the existing are a little bit out of conformance with current regulations.
This one looked like the new one might be a little bit smaller in sign face, so that's the reason I was asking.
Yeah, it's definitely not increasing anything.
All of the signs will stay within the frame, the metal
Yes.
frame, so it's not like they're gonna overlap
Correct,
on any side and go over, they're just,
correct.
okay.
So if I understand it correctly, then the sign on the southeast corner exceeds the square footage by 10.25 feet?
And the maximum height by 5 feet. And that's this sign.
But
And
when
then-
when it was originally constructed, it met, but the
Yes,
sign regulations changed.
correct,
Made it out of conformance.
correct.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what year these signs were erected. We didn't have copies of original sign permits for those, but I would assume that, yeah, when they were put in, they would have been reviewed and would have been in conformance with the regulations as they existed at that time.
At about the same time Dillon's went into
Is that when it went in? Yeah. So, yeah, our records from that far back are spotty at best.
They're all structurally sound, right? And
Yep, yep,
there's
no-
no issues with safety?
Correct.
Okay.
No issues with the structure of the signs.
So then it makes sense to want to go ahead and reuse them.
Right.
Okay. Any questions of the applicant? Sir, if you would like, you can come to the podium, state your name, and say anything that you'd like to try and,
So my name
Sell
is
your
Moise Morani, but I go by Sam Morani. And I moved in the city for almost 2 years. I bought 3 of the locations from Woody's, and I'm trying to improve the location. So we bought the one on the 5th and Limit. Used to be old Woody's, which turned into a Sunoco. And then we bought last year the Sunoco gas station on 700 EISENHOWER. It used to look very tacky. We spent almost $200,000 to put the new pumps, new lightings, put in the kitchen inside the store. So if we get this approval, it will help us for the imaging outside too. It will look much better for appearance. And also customer won't be confused between Woody's and the Sunoco, so they still cannot figure it out, our brand. And I'm just trying to develop the properties and just, stay in the business and develop in the city as I go. So,
How soon would you be looking at replacing all of or these other
I have
signs?
my,
Because I know the canopy is already,
Yeah, canopy is done, pumps are
right.
done, lights are done. We in the process of kitchen, we are waiting for the electrical permit from my contractor. So kitchen should be starting by end of the July, once they get the permit. But I have my installer here, this guy is doing our installation for the sign. How fast can we get?
Probably the next couple of weeks.
Next couple of weeks will be done.
okay, so not an extended drawn-out process or anything?
Nothing, everything is done.
Just whenever you can get the materials, probably.
I think it's already here.
Well, that would be luck. Okay.
So I would appreciate if you can, get us going and improve the business and the property.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Any discussion amongst the commissioners? The only real issue that I had was if there was any kind of structural issues or work that needed to be done to the framework rather than to reuse it. It seems that if it is safe and it's not making it any worse than what it's already there, and because the sign regulation changed and made them out of conformance, they weren't originally built out of conformance, I personally have no objection.
I might just have you open the public hearing
Ah,
and then close it and
and
then
then
do your
do
discussion.
that?
Yep. It's been a few months since we met, so.
True, well, the only other people in the audience are applicants. But I would like to
We got
open
it.
the public
Yep.
hearing for anyone who would like to make comment, either for or against. If so, come to the podium and state your business.
Which were you-
Seeing none?
Now that we haven't already heard.
Yeah. Seeing none, I'd like to close the public hearing
Can we have
And
a
then-
playback?
and then open discussion amongst the commissioners.
I have one more question for
Sure.
Julie. Is this an area of the sign ordinance that is potentially being looked at and for modification?
No, there's no discussion of changing the sign regulations for height or area allowance.
That's a good question. Any other discussions?
And just to kind of expand on that, we really haven't had hardly any requests for variances on signs. We've had a couple, and typically, if we get a lot of requests for variances on the same thing is when we'll start looking at, okay,
Sure.
maybe the regulations need to
Right.
change. But for something like this, we really haven't had that many, and so that tells us that what we have is working for the most part, just in these kind of one-off situations where maybe it doesn't quite fit.
Have we had a case similar to this that you can recall in the recent past with the newer sign regulations?
The most recent sign variant or request for a variance regarding a sign we had, you might recall, at Tipsy's Liquor on Fourth
Yeah.
Street. And that sign was actually in the right of way
Right.
that made it
I remember.
non-conforming. But any others in terms of size, we just have not.
Seems like the coffee shop on Fourth, on Highway 7, wanted to increase the height of their sign.
Oh, you're right, I think, yeah,
by 5
Starbucks.
feet.
Yeah, we had U-Haul
Oh,
also.
yeah.
Yes, and you,
And another
Yeah.
sign
We
on the
denied
front of
that one.
Walmart.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, and they were just wanting a little
Yeah.
bit, and so they were able to make it work with what they could put up legally with the setback and kind of maximize their height, so. Yeah, the goal is always, if you're putting up a new sign, to have it conform with what we've got in
Yes.
place.
And not complicate what's already there.
Right.
So the variance that's being requested is actually with regard to the
Two signs.
two signs.
Signs.
Yep,
Yeah.
And the northeast sign, the variance would be for the spacing away from the street be about
Or
another
the
2.
Height.
The height
Yeah,
of
it's
the-
for the height, yeah, for the
of
height.
street.
So the variance is really from that section, regarding reuse of non-conforming signs. The variance isn't from the section dealing with the specific height and area requirements, it's from that section, regarding the reuse of non-conforming signs. So you don't need to get into the weeds too much with what's non-conforming, just that, the variance granted would or would not allow reuse of those non-conforming signs.
Okay, and then the southeast side, both the spacing and the height, or not the height so much as the
Square footage.
square footage. Yes, okay. Just want to make sure I fully understand
Now,
what variance is requested.
When we go through the variances and the questions, it's all inclusive, right?
Correct.
So we're not actually voting on each individual, it will be the cumulative, both signs.
Correct,
So
so,
if there's a yes and a no, it's a no.
correct. So it's as they presented to reuse these two signs, you're voting yes or no on what they presented
Yeah.
overall.
For the total of both.
Correct,
And one no is a no for both.
correct.
Okay,
Okay. All right. I don't think we've had one of these before, but I think we can make it work. Okay. Any other comments or questions, or shall I go ahead and go through the variance? Good?
I'm
Okay.
ready.
A request for a variance may be granted upon the finding of the board that all the following conditions have been met. The board shall make a determination on each condition, and the finding shall be entered in the record. A, or the first one, that the variance requested arises from such condition which is unique to the property in question and is not ordinarily found in the same zone, district, and is not created by an action or actions of the property owner or the applicant. Commissioner Kim, we'll start on left and go right.
This is the one I always struggle with. In a sense, it's not created by his own actions because it's pre-existing and they took it over. I'll agree.
And I'll agree.
I'll agree.
I agree.
Okay. Second, or B, that the granting of the permit for the variance will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners or residents. Commissioner Kim?
Agree.
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 C, that the strict application of the provisions of the development regulations from which the variance is requested will constitute unnecessary hardship upon the property owner represented in the application. Commissioner Kim?
I'll have to disagree on that one.
I will agree.
Agree.
I'll agree.
And D, that the variance desired will not adversely affect the public health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, or general welfare.
Agree.
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 And E, that the granting of the variance desired will not be opposed to the general spirit and intent of the development regulations. Commissioner Kim?
Agree.
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 Agree. All right. The consensus is agree for those. In granting a variance, the board may impose such conditions, safeguards, and restrictions upon the premises benefited by the variance as may be necessary to reduce or minimize any potentially injurious effects of such a variance upon other property in the neighborhood and to carry out the general purpose and intent of these development regulations. Are there any conditions or circumstances warranting any additional comments or
I
pretty
have none.
self-explanatory?
I have none.
Okay. Based on that, variance is approved. Okay. sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Once again, thank you.
And the second item on the agenda is 4300 New Lawrence Road. Hold a public hearing for case number 22-11, wherein the applicant is requesting a variance to allow an accessory structure in the front yard and a fence over 48 inches in the front yard. Staff report, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So again, this is a request for a variance to allow an accessory structure in the front yard and a fence over 48 inches in the front yard. Property located at 4300 New Lawrence Road is zoned R125, which is low-density, single-family residential district, and is occupied by a newly constructed single-family home. The lot is basically 3.7 acres, and the house is situated in the western half of the lot, fairly far back from New Lawrence Road. The house has been constructed within the last year, so it doesn't even show up on our most recent aerial, but it is back, definitely in the back half of the lot. So the owner is requesting to install a chicken coop in front of the house surrounded by a 6-foot wrought iron fence for protection purposes for the coop and the chickens. The terrain of the property is such that the lot slopes pretty significantly down towards the pond from the back of the house, which prohibits placing that coop behind the house. The land in front of the house is more flat with a more gentle slope. It is sloped, but it's much more gentle than what is behind the house. So again, the lot is significantly wooded, and it has varying terrain from New Lawrence Road. I'm not sure if you all had a chance to drive by it, but it's fairly far back, and with the way the lot slopes, it is even a little difficult just to even see the house driving by. With the,
It's like, is that it?
yeah, you gotta really look for it. So, the way the coop would be situated, it most likely wouldn't even really be visible from the road. So section 4.03D of the development regulations states that no accessory buildings shall be erected in any required front or side yard or any other place forward of the main building line. And Article 12 of the development regulations defines accessory building or accessory structure as a building or use which is 1, subordinate to and serves a principal building or principal use. 2 is subordinate in area, extent, or purpose to the principal building or principal use. And 3 contributes to the comfort, convenience, or necessity of the occupants of the principal building or principal use. And 4 is located in the same zoning located on the same zoning lot as the principal building or use. And that's just kind of to show how chicken coop falls under that definition of accessory structure. And then regarding the fence, section 6.08C states that open fences and hedges may be installed in all front yards on all property lines, but may not exceed 48 inches above the natural contour of the ground. And again, they're looking at putting in a 6-foot fence, just for protection purposes of the coop and the chickens that they have in there. So after the required notifications were sent, staff received no comments from the notified property owners. And we do have, let's see, just a few pictures from the applicant. Let me get back up. So just an example of the type of wrought iron fence they're looking at putting in to surround that, with the type of chicken coop that they would be looking at installing there.
Question?
Sure.
The fence will completely encircle the chicken coop?
Yep, that's
And-
my understanding. We can have the applicant maybe address their
Okay.
specific plans
And then
for
I
how
was
big they're
interested
gonna
in
make that.
how large of an area that
Yep,
that's gonna be.
I'll
So
let him.
I'll ask that.
Yep, I'll let
of
him
the
speak to
applicant.
that. And then he provided a couple of pictures. So this is the view looking back towards the lot from New Lawrence, which you all would have seen driving down there. And then this is just a picture from the front porch of the house looking up towards New Lawrence. You can kind of tell that it does slope up towards the road.
Significantly.
Yeah. And then this is just his kind of plot sketch, the house, and they've got a detached garage back there. And then the coop and garden area would be out front.
And hold it there a second. The other question that I was going to ask, is it underneath the easement for the power lines, but I can see where the ground's been stripped and it's to the west of that.
Yes,
so-
you can see that.
So that answer is no.
Yep,
There's
totally out of
no-
that easement area.
No problem with that.
And then that's just another view of the plot plan. But again, so the applicant is here, if you have any questions for him, and I can answer any questions that you might have for staff.
So this will be the second accessory structure on the site?
Yep.
Okay.
Is it considered temporary? I
No,
mean, accessories, I guess, can be temporary, movable, and permanent.
yeah,
this is
so
a
we would
permanent-
consider it permanent. If that were ever removed in the future, then,
Yeah, it's not like you're gonna drag it around or anything, but it does kind of look like a kit built that you just drop down on. Foundation
yeah,
or-
I'll let,
cinder blocks
the
or
owner
Okay,
speak to it, but I don't believe it's some of them are built to be kind of movable. The smaller ones, I don't believe that's
like
what
sheds,
this one is.
like the sheds that you can.
Yeah.
I guess my main issue was, is it considered a permanent structure or temporary?
Yeah, we would consider it a permanent
Permanent
structure.
Okay. All right.
You gotta open the public hearing this time.
Well, if you'll remind me.
You know, your grandfather has to remind you.
Okay. But I can ask the applicant to come forward first before I do the public hearing.
If you so desire, you're the chairman.
Would the applicant mind coming to the podium and stating your name and then,
Did you open the public hearing?
no, he said I didn't have to for this
I
part.
think they really want you to open the public
Oh, I didn't
hearing.
hear him say that.
Okay. Before you speak, I would like to open a public hearing.
Yeah. Close the other one, so you gotta open this one.
And since you're the only one in the audience, I will close the public hearing.
Well, you should let
Or
him
you can let him
first.
speak during the public hearing,
Or-
that's fine.
Yes, sir, I have two questions.
Evening, Commissioners. Appreciate your time and consideration for this variance. I'm Kevin Wiley. That is my wife, Dee Dee Wiley. Property we have is a little bit unique as far as where the house is located on it. Traditionally, houses are up closer to the road, as you would see driving along there, and there wouldn't be any issues putting this behind the house. But with the pond in the back and the house down there, it fits better and there's space there for it to have it. You asked a question about what we were
How
gonna
large
put
of
in
an
there.
area do you?
30
plan
by
to fence it?
40 will be the garden area.
30 by 40.
The chicken coop is 6 by 12. We're planning on putting raised flower beds in there, and then we have a sprinkler in there that will be watering it. So in addition to the chickens, we'll have a garden area that we'll be able to use.
And assuming because you're gonna build this really nice expensive fence, you're not gonna be moving this around the yard anytime soon?
No, sir. The intent is have this. We have water spigots up there that we can have water systems for it, and it's gonna be a permanent place. The fence will be for the protection for not only for the chickens, but also for the deer and the turkey and the other wildlife that frequently is out there. So we love to see them, but we would prefer not to see them in our garden. So.
Okay. Any other questions of the applicant?
No, sir.
I can't quite read what this says. Between your shop and the house, there's another square here. What is, looks like it says Pola. I'm sure that's not what that says.
Pavilion, ma'am. We have
Oh,
a
like a
pavilion.
gazebo?
A gazebo, yes.
Okay, so that would be a third accessory
No,
structure?
that is the first, that's a,
This would be a third accessory structure.
Let's see.
Okay, then it would. Yeah, is that existing, the gazebo out there?
Sure.
Is that already constructed?
yep.
Okay, so then, yeah, so then this would be a
Third
third.
accessory.
So then that would be another variance.
So originally we were saying the chicken coop didn't require, since it wasn't a
What?
permanent.
You're the expert.
What was the question? Sorry. Michelle and I
Since
were-
it's not a permanent structure, would a variance be required?
Yeah, because we're still considering it an accessory structure.
And And accessories can be permanent or,
Yes, yeah, we don't
Non-permanent, so-
differentiate in the regulations.
so it's just a matter of, is it a structure?
Yeah, so it is an accessory structure. And so, yeah, since they've got the detached shop and garage, and then that gazebo back there, which, we didn't realize was back there. I don't think we saw a permit on that. That might have been with the original building package. So then this would be the third, and so that would just be part of the variance.
Okay, we can include that. and
Yep,
just
you
take
absolutely
care of
can.
all the
We're,
business right
yep,
now.
we're deliberate in our wording with our notifications that it's not listing the specific sections that they're requesting a variance from, just what it is for. So, yep, you can just, that would be included
Consider that
in this.
when
Yep,
we're
we're
considering
allowing
the-
this, and so that would be their third. It's allowed in the front of the house with the 6-foot high fence. And that would be part of the package. Yeah,
It will not be moving or anything. It's
yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. Any other questions for the applicant?
No, sir.
No,
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Since I'm confused as to whether I closed the public hearing or not, I would now like to close the public hearing and turn the discussions over to the board members.
man, when they get old, they start to forget everything.
It'll happen to you too.
When I get old.
Any comments or questions before we go into the variances? I know you're thinking hard, so there
I
must be
am
something that
thinking
you're all
hard.
ready to
Yeah.
ask, but not quite sure
Well,
how
I
to
don't really
ask
have
it.
questions, I just gotta resolve some stuff in my mind.
Okay. I won't push. Commissioner Jervasini?
I have no questions.
Let me know.
I don't have questions. I'll, when we go through, I'll be able to explain
Okay.
my thought process.
Okay, sounds good. All right, a request for a variance may be granted upon the finding of the board that all of the following conditions have been met. The board shall make a determination on each condition, and the finding shall be entered into the record. And I guess one caveat is that for the variance, we will consider both the chicken coop and the pavilion.
And the fence.
Yep, so
And the
it'd be
fence.
the chicken coop as the third accessory structure, and then the fence,
In the front yard.
yeah, in the front yard.
In the front yard.
Right.
All of the above. Okay. The first
No,
one.
it's just one.
That the variance requested arises from such conditions which is unique to the property in question and is not ordinarily found in the same zone or district and is not created by an action or actions of the property owner or the applicant. Let's start with,
I agree.
I agree.
I agree. I also agree, and I'll caveat my answer by, in a normal subdivision, the house is at the front of the lot, the size of the lot allows them to do anything that they want with the back of the lot, and so part of the variance under consideration is for something to be in front of the house. And so I believe the circumstances surrounding this lot and the power line and the topography and everything is something that the owner had to work with and not that he necessarily created anything, including the location of the pond, which a lot of this centers around.
Another driver, though, is that easement of the power lines,
Yes, yes, definitely.
closer to
100 feet,
New Lawrence
50
Road.
feet either way. Okay, and, yeah.
So I agree with everything that you guys just said, except, and I have no problem with the fence, no problem with the chicken coop, with it being in the front yard, because there are exceptional circumstances here. But the third accessory structure, I have an issue with. That, because that is of his own making, in my opinion, so I have to disagree for this one.
Okay. Okay.
And you're talking about the gazebo.
Yeah.
The pavilion.
Well,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter which one you consider the
Oh,
third, this would be
well,
the
yeah, that's
third.
Yes.
So, a third accessory structure, regardless of which one it is.
Roger.
No, I think that would only be the second structure.
He's
No,
got a shed.
He's got a
Oh, he's got a shed,
garage.
too.
Yeah, the detached, yeah, shop.
Yeah. Okay. B, that the granting of the permit for the variance will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners or residences.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
C, that the strict application of the provisions of the development regulations from which the variance is requested will constitute unnecessary hardship upon the property owner represented in the application.
I agree.
I also agree.
I agree.
I disagree.
Okay. That the variance desired will not adversely affect the public health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, or general welfare.
I agree.
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 And lastly, that the granting of the variance desired will not be opposed to the general spirit and intent of the development regulations.
Agree.
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 Disagree.
Disagree. Okay. Based on the vote count, the granting of the variance should be approved. In granting a variance, the board may impose such conditions, safeguards, and restrictions upon the premises benefited by the variance as may be necessary to reduce or minimize any potentially injurious effect of such variance upon the other property in the neighborhood, and to carry out the general purpose and intent of these development regulations. Are there any?
I think we ought to ensure that the applicant is knowledgeable of section 8-332 and 333
That was the-
regarding domestic fowl location.
In the ordinance
And number.
regarding the
Yeah.
The
chickens.
domestic fowl location and number restricted, including a rooster.
No roosters.
Prohibition of roosters.
Add that as a
You can't have roosters?
additional.
No.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
I just think
weird.
that
Is it in there?
Right on top.
they
Yeah.
have to know that they are compliant with that,
Right. So just to guarantee that.
to guarantee that
the
some,
applicant
Yeah,
is
that the
aware of
applicant-
the,
yeah, they're aware of it and
of the section concerning.
that the code enforcers go out and all of a sudden an inspector just issues whatever they issue,
Citation.
citation.
Shall we give them a chance to
Yeah.
read it?
Yeah, take it home.
Okay.
And they do meet, with the size of the lot, they meet the
Yeah.
the
All of
distance
the-
requirements
Yeah.
from other buildings and all of that.
Just so he's
But just-
aware that it.
Yep,
that
yep,
it
so
could
he's got a
be
copy
at
of what
some
you
point in
guys are looking
time
at, and everyone's on the
point
same page.
Brought up either
Yep.
by a neighbor or random inspector.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Next on the agenda is the election or re-election of officers for the chairman and the vice chairman. Thank you very much. Do I have any nominations for chairman?
Will you do it again?
I will for one last time.
Okay.
How's that?
That sounds good.
Then you're nominated.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain? Vice Chairman, will you serve again, Vice Chairman?
Yeah, as long as I'm alive.
We
All in
hope you will
favor?
be for the
All in
next
fa-
year.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Congratulations, sir.
To you both.
Gee, do I get an extra penny in my pocket?
You get the same salary I get.
I move to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.
All right.